Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. Welcome to today's edition of HR Digest. It's good to have you here. I'm so happy that you could join us today. Please remember to share the link with your followers, your colleagues, your friends. You know, this is a very important topic and you have to share, right? We are privileged to host our very dear Abu once again. As you, those of you who joined us last week, you realized that we couldn't discuss the talent management because Abu had an emergency and I told you, but thank God that he's back. But on your own behalf and my behalf, I want to express our condolences to him and we pray that his brother's soul rest in peace. So we are discussing talent management, the good, the bad, the ugly, succession planning. And so we'll get to know everything about succession planning. We will get to know how to go about it. And I am just excited to host my own boss, Abu, to discuss this topic. So without really much ado, let me invite Abu into the studio.
Hello, good evening,
Hey.
good afternoon, wherever you are. I am honored and I am pleased to be here. Thank you very much, Patricia, for inviting me, and I must apologize for not being able to make it last week. As Patricia indicated, yes, I had an emergency, and so I couldn't make it. But today I'm here, and it is my wish that we will make the most of today's discussion, as always. So thank you very much, and I'm all yours when you are ready.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Please let us know where you are watching us from. So give us your name and where you are watching us from, and let us acknowledge you properly. And share the link. And remember to also subscribe to our channel. Thank you, Samuel, for joining us. Thank you, Michael. Wahab, is the audio better?
Okay.
We see that in the chat column that you can hear me. Zachary, thank you for watching. Wow, Abu has a lot of followers. Thank you. Right. Let's go right in, Abu, because I think the network is not helping, but I want to go right in. So first of all, help us understand what talent management is, and then what succession planning is, and if there's any difference between the two, you help us understand.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question, Patricia. Whenever I talk about talent management, succession planning, I like to use the definition provided by CIPD. It's quite straightforward and easy working definition. So, according to CIPD, talent management is a systematic attraction, identification, development, engagement, retention, and deployment of those individuals who are of particular value underlined, to an organization due to their high potential or because they fulfill critical roles. So basically, when you talk about talent management, it's about when you identify, so the process you use to identify, develop, engage, retain, and deploy, or you can even deploy and retain employees who have a particular value to an organization. So that means that person or persons have to be valuable to the organization's strategy or the organization's growth or the organization's operations. And they are valuable because of a certain potential they have or a certain critical role they fulfill in that organization. So that is a summary of what talent management is. Now, one may ask, okay, so what is succession planning and how are the two related? Succession planning is also a process of identifying and developing potential future leaders and senior managers. So, whereas for talent management, it is a process of identifying, deploying, training, retaining persons who are valuable to organization because of their high potential or critical roles. For succession planning, you identify and develop potential future leaders as well as individuals to fill business critical roles. So succession planning is a leadership tool and also a business continuity tool, because there are some employees in the organization who hold very critical roles that you can't afford not to have a role holder in place at every point in time. So that is what succession planning seeks to do. And this definition is also from CIPD, as I indicated earlier. So in football terms, I like football analogy because football is a popular sport. In football terms, every team has 11 players and then has a bench. And the bench has to be as strong as the first 11 playing, because if you have a striker and number 9 who gets injured on the job or on the field, you will need to replace him or her with another striker who is sitting on the bench. So let's take succession planning. Patricia, I don't know if you can hear me. I can see in the chat, some people are saying that they can't hear. I don't know if it's coming from my end or their end.
No, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Then let me
please, if you can hear. Okay, Akosia says she can hear. Thank you, Akosia. Babatunde, wow, Babs, thank you for joining us. Oh, it's been ages. Aisha, thank you for joining us. Abu has pulled out people today. Please carry on.
Thank you. Let me proceed. So basically, I was making the analogy of succession planning akin to having a bench, and that developing that bench straight throughout the organization, so that when a vacancy occurs, you have qualified candidates who are available within the organization to fill whatever role. So basically, that is what succession planning is about. How the two linked? So we know that talent management is identifying and developing persons to fill critical roles in the organization based on their high potential. And what succession plan do is that it prepares such persons for future leadership roles and also for very critical roles. So that's how we define the two of them, and that's how the two of them are linked. Thank you, Patricia. Hello, Patricia.
Hello, Abu.
Yes. So I don't know if you heard the last part of my presentation, but I drew the link between the two. The fact that whereas talent management seeks or identifies the talent, brings them in, train them, develop them for critical roles, what succession planning does is to prepare them for leadership and also for roles that are very critical to the organization.
All right. Thanks so much. Okay, so then that leads me to my next question. So what, in your opinion, is not succession planning? Because a lot of people, a lot of companies are doing a lot of things and they're calling it succession planning. So what, in your opinion, is not succession planning?
Thank you very much. It's good when this question is very important. When you talk about what succession planning is, it's important to talk about what it is not. So basically, succession planning is not emergency replacement planning. And by emergency replacement, what do I mean? So, for example, one morning you wake up and you hear that one of your key staff has been touch wood, run down by a hit and run driver. So the person is in the hospital and cannot obviously come to work, or one of your staff members decides to play the truancy, maybe the previous night they went somewhere and on a Monday morning they cannot come to work, so they call in sick. Now, what you do in these situations is not what succession planning is about. For situations like this, what you need is to have a backup plan. Basically, you must have a certain backup program for all the key roles you have, i.e., there must be somebody within the team who can step in for another team member for occurrences like sick leave or even annual leave. That is for short-term absences, whether they are planned or unplanned. Those ones, that is not what you need succession planning for. But these ones are emergency replacement planning, which every organization must have in addition to having a succession plan. Patricia.
Yes, I'm with you, Abu. Okay, thank you so much. Michael is asking a question. And this reminds me, please, if you have a question, just post it there. Abu is capable to handle all your questions. Okay, so he says, can we say succession planning uses talent management to ensure effective succession planning?
Awesome. So basically, you cannot have an effective succession planning without talent management or a pool of talent. So basically, let's put it this way. So talent management program is the pool or the tool within which you feed your succession planning program, so to speak. So the two are bedfellows. I hope I answered the question. Today, it seems the network is not being kind to us. Patricia, can you hear me? Maybe if there, okay, I can't have access to the, or on the screen I have here. If there are any questions, you put there. Maybe whilst Patricia, we are waiting for her. If there are questions that I can see, I will respond to. I don't have the access to the
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, Patricia, I can hear you now. And I'm sure.
Sorry, the network is not being friendly with me today at all.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Sorry about that. Right. Thank you so much for answering that question. Now, my next question then is, how important is succession planning and talent management to any organization? What are the benefits of succession planning? Why must we so much care about succession planning and talent management?
Okay, thank you very much, Patricia. I will talk. There are a number of benefits or a number of reasons why every organization should have or should pursue talent management and succession planning. But I'll talk about only 5 for want of time. The first one is business continuity. You see, as an organization, you should be able to, at every point in time, have availability of capable individuals for management positions. Okay, so if because it's said that everything rises and falls with leadership. You cannot have teams who are not led by anyone just because you have one of your team members or team leaders who has left the organization. So for business continuity purposes, you need to have a talent management and a succession plan in place. 2, it is a risk mitigation measure. In a the talent world is a highly volatile environment. Talent move in and out. So there's always the risk of talent flight. So in order to have a mitigant against, of course, it's a free world. You can't hold anybody from pursuing their career goals, but you must have a good system in place to make sure that you're able to mitigate the risk associated with talent flight. And so with a talent management and a succession plan in place, you are able to mitigate the risk of losing experienced corporate leaders at every point in time. Number 3, I'll talk about your ability to identify highly talented individuals. By having a talent management program in place, you are able to systematically identify persons who are high potential or high performers and put them in a certain program so that you have visibility on them. You cannot be driving blindfolded. Okay. It's important you have visibility on where you are going as an organization when it comes to your talent pool. So usually HR departments are tasked to establish these formal procedures to make sure that there is a certain selection and development process in place for middle level management, even the first level, middle level, and then the senior level, and all of this is happening within the organization context. Benefit number 4 is that you will spend few or minimal financial resources trying to go out there to go and seek external resources if you've not developed them internally. It is always cost effective to develop internally than to go and buy. So there is always the issue of whether to build or to buy. But building holds a lot of advantage over buying. So that is one advantage or benefit talent management gives us. And then last but not least is the promotion of employee development. If you have a talent management and a succession plan in place, it helps you to develop your talent because you know that you are building them for a certain future role. And I'm sure in course of our discussion, we will talk about some of the developmental plans you can put in place for your talent management pool. Patricia.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So this then tells me that if any organization wants to really mitigate against these risks and want to really grow, then succession planning is a must. So then,
absolutely.
Right. So can you please give us the fundamentals, the basics of a succession plan?
Okay. For the fundamentals, I have only 3 really, because it's good to keep it short so that everybody can remember. First and foremost, the succession plan.
Sorry, before you hand it, I see a question from Alice. So not to skip it. She says, is the emergency plan, as you put it, not part of the whole succession plan? That is her question. You spoke about the emergency plan, and it's not part of the whole succession plan.
In order not to lose focus, okay, so both succession planning and emergency planning are all business continuity plans, and we should put them in that context. Business continuity. However, one is short term, the other is long term. Okay, so we should put that in perspective. Both of them are business continuity plans. However, one is long term, the other is short term. An emergency that comes up, having because even the tools or the strategies you need to adopt for both of them are not the same. So they are different, even though they serve similar purpose, but one long term, one short term. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, Abu. Thank you so much. I have a long question for Wahab. Should I go ahead and before you carry it, please? Okay.
Sure.
Wahab says, why is it that some organizations seem to be in shock anytime a top management staff leaves or a critical staff leaves, and they end up adding up their job schedules to existing staff? Is it because of lack of succession planning?
So I will give two reasons why. The first one is what most often than not, if there is no proper succession plan in place, then obviously when a key or a critical staff leaves, it will leave top management in shock. But even if you have a succession plan in place, you know, when you have employees you've invested in over a long period of time, you build relationships with them. When you lose them, you know, separation in whichever form is quite difficult. So sometimes the shock is coming from the fact that you build a certain relationship with the person, you've done a certain investment in the person, and for most part, you never saw it coming. Okay, you know, people are very good in hiding some of these things. I know of examples where somebody had a lunch meeting with his MD. They went to see a customer, went to have lunch on a particular day. The following day, MD is going to look for this officer, and he's informed that, oh, yesterday was his last day. You know, so there'll always be shock. You know, sometimes even the approach, the process through which employees leave the organization can send shocks. But if you have a good plan in place, the shock will not be long lasting. You know, you have the momentary shock, and then you just have to pick yourself up, put in the plan, and then the organization will continue to run. I hope I've answered Wahab's question.
Yeah, Wahab. Yeah, thank you so much. Kojo says, always a learning opportunity listening to Abu. Yes, you are so right on that. Right, Abu, so please carry on with the fundamentals, please.
All right, so the fundamentals, I'll talk about three. One of them is, in fact, you can't have a succession plan if you don't have executive management buy-in. And it's not even just the buy-in. Sometimes the support, does executive management even see that as a priority? Because if you don't get that, you have the situation where you have your succession plan in place, executive management can move staff left, right, center, and that succession plan will not be serving its purpose. So a succession plan that almost every month is thrown out of gear obviously cannot be a proper succession plan. So you need executive management buy-in. That is key. And then also you should keep it simple. Don't complicate matters. Basically, you just need a certain pipeline. And the pipeline should have people who are being developed to take over key roles or functions in the organization. So you just have to identify those key roles, identify people with potential, put them into this developmental plan, and that's it. Don't complicate matters for yourself by bringing in all manner of complications that makes a very simple process like succession planning very cumbersome. And then last but not least is that you have to follow the critical path. So once you are, and we will talk about the process. So once you've laid out the process, make sure that you are following it through. and you are not doing nitpicking, or as and when something comes up, you change goalposts, or even sometimes you don't follow the plan at all. Have a plan in place and make sure you stick to it. So for me, this will be my fundamentals for having an effective succession plan.
Right. Thank you so much. So then, so how do we go about identifying successes for an organization? And are the successes, are they supposed to be for all the roles within the organization, or a certain number of roles? And in doing so, should we tell the people we have identified as successes, or should we not tell them? I have three questions to get.
To tell or not to tell?
It's
Okay.
a new debate,
So right. So basically, there is a process that you have to go through. First and foremost, you need to first determine what's needed for the future for the organization. So basically, in terms of strategy-wise, organization or HR needs to know what is the strategy of the organization in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. And once you know where the organization is headed for, then you need to assess the talent you have. And I will share, I like using the McKinsey's 9-point grid for the assessment. So I'll share that and show you how you can identify your talent. So once you've identified your talent, then you will know what are the gaps you have. So you want to get to Kumasi, and you are currently in Accra, and you know that you have a certain mileage to cover. What do you have? You have a car with a full tank. Can the full tank take you to Kumasi? Maybe your car is a 5.0 engine, so full tank will take you to Nkoko. So then that means you have a gap of moving from Nkoko to Kumasi. So you must determine the gaps you have based on where you want to get to. Then you can now develop the talent pipeline. So there are some people you identify, and maybe they need just some simple competencies to be, or some competencies to be developed. Others may need some wider, or others may have wider competency gap. So you must put them in that plan, and then design the individual developmental plans for them to take them there. So we'll take each of these steps one after the other. And so to the question of to tell or not to tell, it's so there's no one size fits all answer. For some persons within the pool, you can tell them and let them know that they are part of this pool, and you are considering them for a certain role, or maybe you've ironed out 2 or 3 roles that they will be suitable for at a particular point in time, but they are going through a developmental process. There are some too that you don't inform, because depending on the motivation of the person, you can put somebody in a talent pool, and you tell them that, okay, so I'm developing you to become head of HR. Now the person feels that he's ready to become head of HR. The head of HR is going nowhere. So then the person becomes disillusioned and may decide to go and apply his or her trade elsewhere. So you have to to tell or not to tell depends on the individual, depends on the circumstance or the context. So management will have to look at each person or each case based on its own merits. I think there was another question I answered. Or yes, you asked the question if you do you must have a successor for all the roles in the organization. All leadership roles must have successors, and then all critical roles. So, for example, maybe your systems analyst, or maybe your IT network administrator, probably it's not a leadership role, but it's a critical role to your organization. So such a role must have a successor. But generally, you have situations where, because of job rotation and stuff like that, so for example, if you take a bank, a teller can fill in for another teller. Even maybe a relationship officer can fill in for a teller. So there are some roles where if someone resigns, you can replace them by going through the normal recruitment process. And in the meantime, you can have somebody who can perform that job. But for a leadership role or a critical role, you can't afford, because sometimes these are roles that require certain specific competencies. So you need, a matter of importance, to have successes for those roles. So that will be my answer to that question, Patricia.
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, now I think everybody, you mentioned the process, so everybody is just waiting for you to take us through the process. So if you can please take us through a typical succession planning process, please.
Okay, so we start with the strategy part, and I must say that every succession plan has to flow from strategy. If it doesn't flow from strategy, it's a non-starter. So first, you need to look at what direction is your industry headed towards. What is the business strategy for the medium term, for the long term? That's very important. What are the positions that are mission critical to your organization's future? You know, maybe today you are talking about a customer service person who is sitting down, customers are coming to the person. Maybe if you look into the future, you are talking about influencers who will be doing your customer service for you, or your marketing job for you. You may have to hire influencers on social media to be doing that job for you. So you need to look at what the future, what is mission critical to your organization in the future. Then what are the competencies that are needed to be successful in those roles? So here we are talking about what are the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and other abilities that are needed for anybody to be successful in a particular position. And then what are the critical success factors? So for stage one, that is what you look at. And here you are beginning with the end in mind. So you are looking at the future before you even begin, because it is when you ask these questions that you'll be able to have a better understanding of what the future holds. And it's why I said that if you don't look at the strategy for the future, then you have a succession plan in place. But in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, when your head of finance leaves, that is when you realize that the person you were preparing to handle that role probably will not be the ideal person for the role. The second step is to, and here we are talking about the 5-step process. So I've mentioned the first one. The second one is to assess your talent. So after knowing where you want to be, now the next question is, okay, let's take inventory of our talent pool. What are the talents we have? who are our high potential, who are our high performers. And this is where, let me share, just bear with me. Let me share a slide. I think it's loading, so just
while it's loading, let me welcome Safia and Martin. I see Vera. Thank you for joining us. Martin has a question, Babu. When you're through, please, then we answer that question.
No, I can answer whilst I'm waiting for.
He says, how would you handle the possibility of power struggle amongst likely successors?
Okay, so you will have this situation if let's say you have more than one successor for a particular role, and they know. So you see, ordinarily, of course, in a team or in a department, maybe you have, let me take HR. You have let's say 2 business partners. You have head of recruitment, head of training, and most probably each of them in the team feels that, well, if the head of HR is not there, they can fill that role. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are in the talent pool. It is possible that maybe 1 or 2 of them are in there. Now, if you've informed them that yes, we are considering the 2 of you for the head of HR role, then that is when the power struggle might come in, because one person may want to sabotage the other. But again, it is the competency you are building in them, and the fact, even if you've told them, the fact that you are looking for a leader with the right character, a leader with the right attitude. So there are some behaviors that might be deemed to be unwholesome. So if any of them is pursuing such behavior, then they may be working against themselves. Okay, so and that is the approach where you've informed them. But you can also have the situation where you've not informed them. So it's just the normal team, jostling here and there. Again, as part of team building, the head of the department should make sure that he is entertaining competition that is acceptable and not hostile competition. So for me, I think that's how to handle such a situation. My thing is not loading. I don't know why. Because I'd wanted the viewers to see what I will be talking about, because it's a okay. So I think it should. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is what I'd wanted to. This is the McKinsey 9-box grade that I was speaking to. So you will find that this grade has an X and Y axis. Okay. On the left, you have the performance, that is vertical, and then horizontal, you have the potential. So there are nine quadrants in there, and or there are 9 boxes. So and you are measuring. So this is what you use to assess your talent pool. You determine what is their performance level now and their potential. So in the bottom left corner, you have those who are low in performance, and also they have low potential. Okay. Then moving to the to the right, that's the middle box. At the bottom part, you have those who are low performers, but they have medium potential. And then you have low performers with high potential. Then if you move to the middle bracket there, you have persons who whose performance is medium. The first box, they have low potential. Middle box, medium performance, medium potential. Then the box on the right, medium performance, high potential. And then the top part, you have high performance, or somebody with a high performance but low potential, high performance, medium potential, and then high performance, high potential. Now, that same grade, if you see the next slide. Now, how do you define persons who belong to those various boxes? So in the box 1, the underperformer who is also low in potential, that person is a questionable fit. Obviously, such a person is either in a new role, or probably you need to end such a person's employment in the next 3 to 6 months. Then there are people who, those next to them are the misspent talent, or those who are at risk. So for these people, they have to improve in their current role. Then you have those who are new to their role, so they are unrated. That is why you anticipate that they will have a high potential, even though they have low performance now. Then those in the middle, those in the first box, these are emergent specialists or consistent contributors, and they need to improve in their current role. Then you have the valued contributors and the rising stars, and then you move to the top. You have the valued specialist. This is somebody who is, in terms of performance, the person is low, but the person is low in potential but has high performance. Then for me, the bracket I want us to focus on is the top 4 on the right. So the 2 top, and then on the right, and the 2 in the middle on the right. That's the emerging potential, the star, that's the top talent, the rising star, and the valued contributor. These are the people who should be in your talent pool. So when you have put all your talent, the key talents in this, and those who fall in the emerging potential, the star, top talent, the valued contributor, or the rising star, they are the ones that you have to basically you have to keep in your succession, or in your talent pool for your succession plan. If there are any questions on this, because this is a bit technical, so I'm sure probably if there's any question, let me take it before I move to the next stage.
Okay, I don't see. Okay, there's a question from Samuel. So how big should your talent pool be at each level? That is the lower, middle, or senior. I think you mentioned that, but you can go ahead and then answer it. We have far spent on time, but we are going to allow Abu to complete the process, and then we can.
If I think because of time, let me rush through, and then maybe we'll take the questions after.
Okay.
So the step 3, once you've identified your talent, now you need to look at your gaps, and basically, as I indicated earlier, the gaps are what kind of competencies do you need to build in your team to be able to get to the destination, that is the strategy that you've developed for yourself. Then you have Now you have to develop the talent pipeline, and these are some of the interventions that you put, or you expose those in the talent pipeline to. You provide acting opportunities, including lateral mobility. So if somebody is, let's say, in finance and you consider the person for risk, for example, you can create opportunities for them to act, maybe when the substantive person in the role goes on leave or is absent. Then you can also let them sit in meetings and make them to contribute. By so doing, they are building their confidence and their knowledge base. You also give them stretch assignment or special projects, so that they will be keeping they'll be trying their hands on the job that you are considering them for. Also, on the job training, using the coaching approach, very important. Also, of course, the usual we know is the instructor-led training opportunities. Then also letting them be trainers of others. It is said that the best way to learn is to teach. So you can develop a training faculty in your organization where persons you are putting in a talent pool are able to have opportunity to train others, and then also by letting them engage in research work. So yes, that for the question of the process. I don't know if there are any more questions for me, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you, Abu. Last question from my end has to do, we are looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what will make a succession plan good? Briefly, because time is spent. What will make a succession plan ugly or bad? Just briefly.
Okay, so I think for the good, I've mentioned most of the things I've mentioned are for the good. But for the bad or ugly, basically, if you don't have executive management commitment to the plan, it will be bad or ugly. And then also, sometimes you include employees in the succession plan who are disinterested or unmotivated. For that, you will spend on them, or you invest in them, but they won't give you the desired outcome. There's also the issue of high turnover. If you don't ring fence the persons you have in your talent pool and they keep leaving, it will be like you are using a basket to fetch water, personality. And then also, in some cases, prospective successors who have not been adequately trained and developed may be pushed into roles just because there's a vacancy and these people are not prepared for the role. Then there's also the potential successes, the fact that potential successes cannot guarantee or cannot be guaranteed promotion. And I think I mentioned that earlier, where they know that they are in a certain pool, and they have expectations. So if you fail to meet the expectations, they can become frustrated. So even though there are others, I think for lack of time, we can just mention these. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. In fact, we have a full day scheduled succession planning training. So sign up if you want to know more about it. When Abu is in front of the class, is something else. So I will let you know when that training will come on. But Aisha too is asking, what will make an apparent successor leave an organization, and what measures should the organization take to avoid such situations? I think you mentioned one of the things that will happen to make it bad is when your successors keep leaving. So what will you do to stop them? I mean, sometimes you just can't stop, but what measures can you put in place?
Okay, so one way of ring fencing such persons is to let them know the plans the organization have for them. So sometimes once you identify the high risk people, you can let them know the plans the organization have for them. If that they are motivated by the fact that they are looking forward to a higher role, that might keep them. Sometimes if their current remuneration is not the best. You know, as someone would say, bread and butter issues now before you think about, you know, the luxury stuff tomorrow. So for such persons, if you can have a certain maybe markup for them, so that at least you meet, they know that at their level, you are meeting the market rates for them. And sometimes there's something we call the grandfather approach, where yes, they might be on a particular grade, but you can grandfather because of the potential. And you can do this for people who maybe they are taking over from someone who is going on retirement, and you know that, oh, this person will retire in a year or two. So that one, it is certain that that person is retiring. But where the person is not retiring, but you are envisaging that if the person resigns, and that one you cannot plan for. So you can have that conversation with such persons and see what works. But definitely you must have a certain ring fencing program in place for such high risk or high flight risk individuals.
Thank you so much. Last two questions. There you go, Abu. Alex is asking, at what point should you revise your succession plan?
Okay, so the advice is that depending on how high your attrition rate is, if you are in the banking industry where we have one of the highest staff turnovers, every 6 months you have to review your succession plan. Obviously, people would have either moved out, people would have changed roles, and then you see those whose developmental needs have changed. And so every 6 months, you need to look at it and make sure it is still fit for purpose. But if you are in an industry that has less staff turnover, then maybe once a year should be a good idea.
All right, thank you so much. There are a lot of questions, but time is so fast spent. So we will answer them and then put them on the pages for you, Abu. So please, I will forward those questions to you, and then you can post your answers there. Thank you so much. So let me take your final words, and then we can call it a day.
Thank you, Patricia. My final words, I would like to talk about two quotes. One from Liz Weber, and she says, "Never put your business in the hands of one person or a select. People live, people die, people forget." So this basically is talking about the importance of having a succession plan in place. And then the last quote is from John Maxwell. I love John Maxwell to bits. And he says that a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. If as a leader you leave an organization or you leave your department and there is nobody to take over from you, i.e. you have not poured yourself into another person who can take over from you, then you are a failed leader. Every leader must have somebody they have built up to take over from them anytime they leave the scene. Thank you very much, Patricia.
Wow, thank you so much, Abu. We are so grateful that you could make it, and thank you for the insights you've shared with us. Thank you everyone for joining us. Remember that HR Digest is brought to you by Standard Consult with support from FA Impressions. Please contact FA Impressions on 024-352-6781, 024-352-6781 for all your printing and branding needs. And remember to also subscribe to our channels so that we can continue to learn together and share ideas together. Abu, God bless you. We are grateful. Thank you so much. So until I see you next week, everyone do have a great week. May this week be better than any other week before. God bless us all. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.